Hi guys, I wasn't going to pop back on so quickly. I kind of loaded up a bunch of videos pretty fast because I was afraid I wasn't sure how many good days I'd have before I hit a rough day. And I wanted to have some things up there. And I had kind of promised myself I wasn't going to make a video or even an audio on days that I wasn't really feeling all that well. And today's one of those days I'm not feeling all that well. But I also decided when I thought about it today, I was like, the whole reason I've decided to put myself out here was to try to, not just for us in the benzo community, but also for the general public, um, to try to get the word out about what we're going through, what's happening, and also to try to offer some support and help along the way if any of this is helpful. So I had gotten a couple of questions, three of them actually, three different people with kind of the same question over the last 24 hours. And so I thought, well, that's probably telling. Let me go back and try to answer that question. So I'm going to do that, knowing that today is, not one of my worst days, but it's certainly not one of my better days. And I think all of us can relate to that. Whether we call it windows or waves or just the nonlinear piece to this, that a good hour doesn't predict the next hour is going to be good, and a good day doesn't predict the next day is going to be good, and a bad day doesn't predict the next day is going to be bad, right? That's the other way to think about it. Anyway, the question I keep getting, or got the three questions I got that were the same, were around wanting me to talk a little bit more about how I think about acceptance and allowance in this, because in my first audio clip that I posted, which was I think called "Digging the Hole," I spoke a lot about Claire Weeks and her approach of facing and allowing and accepting and floating and letting time pass. And then I used the DARE approach, which is a more contemporary approach, kind of very similar, that also has an allowing piece to it. So let me circle back and explain, because when I think about acceptance and allowance in this, I think it means different things for different people, and I think it also means different things at different times, right? Like what I can accept and allow today is probably really different than what I could have accepted and allowed even just 2 days ago when I was feeling a little bit better. Um, so there's two ways that I kind of think about this. One or two things that have helped me think about allowance and acceptance in this process. And one is I rely a lot on the Stoic philosophy. This is like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and Epictetus. And if you know anything about this stuff, I love this stuff. Ryan Holiday is a contemporary writer of it, and I'll make some links below because I've actually found the writings there, both the original people back in 200 AD as well as Ryan Holiday now out of Austin, Texas, really helpful in trying to navigate this. And there's a concept, it wasn't used back in 200 AD, but it's amor fati, AMORFATI, two words, amor fati, translates to love your fate. But the way I understand it really is accept your fate, kind of radically accept our fate. None of us signed on for this. Nobody expected this. I didn't think this is where my life was going to be at this moment in time. I didn't expect to endure these kind of symptoms. In fact, I didn't think these kind of symptoms were possible. I could, like I said in a different post, I don't think I could have scripted this brand of hell. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic about that. I think that most of us going through this are shocked that we feel as bad as we do, because it is shocking to the symptoms that this can bring with it. So going back to this amor fati, it was this radical acceptance of this is what I've got for now, and I didn't ask for it, but I've got to find some way to embrace this. And I used the example that you talked about in DARE of pushing the beach ball down under the water, and I think that's the part I like about Claire Weeks and DARE and some other people's approaches, is that we can't really change the fact that we have days where we can't get out of bed, or weeks we can't get out of bed, or whatever's going on for us. That we can't engage with our families or friends. We can't think straight. We're in pain. Different systems are misfiring. We can't do much about that, but it's the fight of that. I know on the days that I really fight that and I can't handle this anymore, and when I get really stuck in the resistance of it, I think that's the pushing the beach ball into the water that then pops me back in the face. So amor fati has kind of helped me kind of reorient myself to just like a realistic view of what's happening and what can I do to not make this worse for myself. And another thing that's been really, really helpful was maybe some of you guys have heard of what's called the Stockdale paradox. And I hope I'm getting this guy's first name right. I think it's James Stockdale, but he was a prisoner of war. He was in the Navy. He was an officer in the Navy, I believe the Navy, during Vietnam. And he he was captured and brought into a POW camp. And I believe he was in there for about 7 years. If I have that right, a long time. But anyway, survived. And when he got out and he was being interviewed and people were talking to him about his experience, they said, how did you do this? How did you stay alive and exist and stay sane, for all these years while so many of your comrades, didn't make it out and they didn't come out okay? And what he talked about was really what he was saying, kind of the dialectic between hope and reality. He said, I think the difference is that a lot of those guys were saying things like, I'm going to be released by Christmas. I'm going to be home with my family by Christmas. Or I'm going to be home with my family by my birthday. Or I'm going to be home with my kid on his 3rd birthday, or whatever it was. And then those days would come and they were still in cages. They were still being tortured. They were still going through this. And it broke them down over and over and over again because they kept saying, by this time next year, I'm home. And that day would come and they'd still be in their situation, and it just broke their spirit. And he said, what I had to learn pretty fast was to say, I know I'm going to be free. I know one day I will be free. I believe that with all my heart, that I will be free. But I don't know when that's going to happen. Today is not that day, clearly. And I would imagine it's probably not going to be tomorrow. And so I've got to figure out how to manage this hell I'm in today, while I also maintain some degree of hope that says I will be free at some point. So that dialectic, that holding kind of what looks like two opposites together at the same time. And I think that's what's being asked of us, is this dialectic of like dealing with our reality while we also hold out some degree of hope. And because I do believe we all heal. I really do. I believe I heal. I believe you'll heal. I don't know when. And I think that's part of what drives us crazy. If somebody could tell us, if we could have a magic 8 ball and be like, this is not a magic 8 ball, a magic ball, crystal ball. I did have a magic 8 ball, but it's been a long time. Anyway, crystal ball that says, hey, you're going to be healed, Jen, in 2 years. It's a long time, but I could make that work. It's I don't know if this is going to be this year, next year, 3 years. I don't know when my time is going to come that I'm healed. And so that dialectic between dealing with that reality and holding out some hope that I know I'm going to heal. So what can I accept of my reality today? And then along with that, just going one step further really quick about the float that Claire Weeks talks about, or the pushing that people talk about. We are highly sensitized beings in benzo withdrawal. Okay, so it's not that we have anxiety disorders. We have a lot of anxious symptoms, but we have a lot of symptoms because we are highly, highly sensitized right now. And because of that, how much we can push really is very idiosyncratic, meaning, I might have been able to walk a mile a couple months ago, but now maybe I can't walk, but just to my mailbox. How much we can push is there's no formula for it. And so when people tell you these are the things you need to do and these are the things that are going to make you better, I don't know that I believe that. I think that there's lots of things we can try, but I really think for each person it's a matter of where they are at in that moment in time in their recovery. And so how much we can push really shifts and changes, I think even sometimes hour to hour. Some people say exercise, and then some people say exercise really was kind of threw them off. Diet, be extreme, and then some. So I don't have like a formula for how to do this, but the float of Claire Weeks, or the run towards of Dare, that run towards the fear, float towards the fear. Sometimes it's too much for us. I mean, there are days I can do that, and there are moments I can do that, and then there are days and times I can't float through that. The best I can do is try to sit with my dialectic of this is my reality and how do I survive today. And so I wanted to just circle back to that and say that even though I talk about these approaches, I don't see them as formulaic. I don't see them as 100% applicable, certainly not 100% applicable all the time. And sometimes they're useful and sometimes they're just not effective. And I think that's why we have to rely on each other to kind of know that, we're in that no man's land where there isn't a formula for us. And we just have to kind of do the best we can. Thanks for listening. I hope I was somewhat clear. And sorry about the hat and the probably can't see my eyes very good with the glare and with the hat, but again, wasn't my best day, but wanted to pop back on. So thanks for listening. Take good care.